Good day, everybody, and welcome to another edition of the Military and Foreign Affairs Network. I am your host, the voice of reason. And yes, today I am still out of town. I am currently in Silicon Valley, out in California, the left coast, the far left coast, I can tell you. But we're going to continue to produce content. I should be here for the rest of the week. And apologize for not creating any content yesterday. Very, very busy day yesterday, just kind of getting acclimated to this environment that I'm currently in. But before we set off on our journey of the ongoing coverage of the war taking place between Ukraine and Russia, another very important event is taking place in another part of the world, just to the south east of Liechtenstein, inside of Switzerland. There's a town called Davos. Just hypothetically speaking, and believe me, I do not wish this to occur at all. But what would happen? What would happen if a 10.0 earthquake were to strike Davos during this period of time? How would that change the world? Would it change the world? I don't know. You tell me in the comment section. But we're going to pan out of Davos, and we are going to eventually migrate our way over to the current war in Ukraine. And it's very interesting to see analysts, Western military analysts, talk about the arming of Ukraine, talk about and discuss the current requests by the Ukrainian government in terms of arms and armaments that it is requesting. I think right now, the Ukrainian military, the Ukrainian state, would like to see 300 to 500 Western main battle tanks be delivered to the Ukrainians. Several hundred self-propelled artillery pieces, and an untold number of systems as well is what the Ukrainians are requesting. So why are the Ukrainians requesting more armaments? And why are we starting to see Western governments get a bit concerned about this ongoing conflict? Not in terms of the providing of additional equipment, but if in fact this additional equipment would help the Ukrainians. I think at this point, what we're seeing is that Western governments, the United States, its European allies, Germany, France, United Kingdom, in some circles it is starting to dawn on these power brokers that the Russians have now decided to go all in on this conflict. And if the Russians go all in on this conflict and we see a formal declaration of war, we see the mass mobilization take place inside the Russian Federation, we see the Russian military-industrial complex start its uptick, how does and at what cost do Western nations continue to support the Ukrainians? We know now that Russia is starting a rapid expansion of its armed forces. We are seeing new army corps being formed. We are seeing the reestablishment of both the Moscow and Leningrad military districts. We are seeing a new army corps that is going to be placed on the border of Finland. So many of these Western countries in Western Europe, Germany, prime example, what is going through their heads? Well, I can tell you. Dollar signs. Massive amounts of dollar signs. They are very much worried that they are going to have to contribute massive amounts of wealth and treasure in lieu of social programs inside of many of these states. So very interesting to see that as the Russians gear up for war, a long war, a war that may expand, the cost of this is now coming into light for the United States, for many of these Western nation states in Western Europe, and for the world. But again, we can anticipate some sort of major Russian operation to take place, and we've heard, again, and we've talked about this before, possibly late spring, late winter. It's difficult to ascertain at the moment. But the Russians are preparing for something. And we don't know what that something is quite yet. Initially, I believe, here at MFAN, it is going to be in the Donbass. The initial operation, the initial uptick in Russian operations are going to be near Bakhmut. They're going to be near Soledar in these locales. But again, once we get into late summer, I believe the Russians are going to expand this operation and expand this operation greatly. Possibly in the direction towards Zaporizhia, possibly in the direction towards Sumy, or the eastern bank of the Dnieper River towards Kiev. But again, difficult to say at this moment. But again, there was a helicopter crash in Kiev, which killed senior leadership members of the Ukrainian government. How'd this happen? Difficult to say. But nonetheless, I believe it was the interior minister and his deputies were killed in this helicopter crash. It's amazing that senior Ukrainian leaders are still flying helicopters near Kiev. Now I know, going short distances and flying very low, the helicopters are probably okay. But again, given Ukraine is in a state of war with Russia, if I were a senior Ukrainian leader, I would probably not be flying around in a helicopter. Just saying. And before I close off, before I disengage for today, again, I'm here in Silicon Valley, and in my other profession, I deal with a lot of individuals who happen to own Teslas, the electric car. Many of these Tesla owners happen to sit on the left side of the fence. And you have to give it to Elon Musk. I mean, he really created a fairly good product that is available kind of to the mass market. You would say it's an effective electric vehicle. And Elon Musk has been applauded for his efforts in creating this this so-called sustainable electric vehicle. That's the left saying that. Now, obviously, many of these folks who own these electric vehicles don't talk about cobalt mining or the other required elements that are needed in the production of this vehicle. But once Elon Musk took over Twitter, decided to open Twitter up a little bit for other thought processes, I've noticed that these Tesla owners now despise Elon Musk. Very interesting. They are angry because Elon Musk has fired, I think it was 2,000 Twitter employees. And that was a big deal. Microsoft has announced that it was laying off 10,000 employees. Now, you will probably hear nothing from those former Tesla owners about getting rid of their Microsoft Windows for firing 10,000 Microsoft employees. Anyway, I think I'm gravitating into an area that, in all probability, I could go on forever. But again, out here in Silicon Valley, you can't help but to feel the anger of some of these people towards Elon Musk. And I can tell you, they are in a bubble out here. I listen to a Berkeley public radio. I mean, that's what it was called on the radio. I don't know the exact name of it, but on the car radio, it said Berkeley Public Radio. And quite frankly, I couldn't tell if the person I was listening to was a man or a woman. I think they intentionally try to keep the voice in a tone that you cannot identify if it's a man or a woman. But I will tell you, if it was a man, it's a very effeminate man. And it is just 24/7 indoctrination. But I was interested in just kind of hearing what they talk about out here. And this is the bastion of a far left thought here in the United States. And it is indeed crazy. Maybe I'll do another video on my time out here in the batshit crazy country of Silicon Valley. But you know, where else can you go and buy a 1,500 square foot middle class home for $2 million? That's a sustainable economy where you can go and the only thing that you can find for $2 million is a 1,600 square foot house. Like my house back in Colorado, if I transplanted it and moved it here, would probably go for $3 million. It's just ridiculous. Anyway, more to come. Nice chatting today. More to come. Have a good day.